Raja, you and I have covered ASEAN summits several times, and several Asian readers would say that why doesn't India take leadership? Why doesn't it play a larger role? And we used to always wonder, we have no answer to this. Like, why doesn't it do it? I'm not so concerned about what Indians feel and that India wanting to. I guess many of us are flattered that it's become Indo-Pacific. But you were in Singapore too. Yeah. So tell me, how do the other Asian countries see this new name?
No, absolutely. I think there are two things there. One, our own neighbors in South Asia, and they think until all these decades, they've used the Americans to balance against India.
Correct.
They had problems with India, therefore US and China was seen as partners in limiting India's power. So when India and the US get together, so for them it is a problem. So they're a bit worried that their viewpoint, say whether it is Nepal or whether it is Sri Lanka, won't carry as much weight. US and India will jointly dominate the region, so that's one fear. For the ASEAN, I think Southeast Asia, there are really deep sense of ambivalence about the Indo-Pacific. They don't like the term. They would prefer to use Asia-Pacific rather than Indo-Pacific. And for them, Quad, they're very concerned about it. They think the Quad will replace the ASEAN. So for them, they got so integrated into the Chinese sphere of influence. For them, a quarrel between US and China and a deepening partnership between India and the US to balance China make them very, very uncomfortable. But I think my assessment is that, look, the more India does, more India works with the US, and more the Quad becomes a functioning organization, people learn to live with it. So I think it is a question, if they see the Quad and the US faltering against China, then they're going to go even closer to China. But if they see the Quad, the US, Japan today are beginning to mount pressure on China, if they see the pressure as significant, they would begin to readjust their position. So finally, it is how they judge the power equations. And I think we're just at the beginning of that big transition where China is stumbling now. You remember 2 years ago, China is invincible, China is unstoppable, US is in decline. But today we're seeing China has its own problems, US has its own strengths. So I think the picture is beginning to change. But you are absolutely right. There's a lot of worries about the Indo-Pacific, about the Quad. Why is India in this? So I remind a lot of my friends in ASEAN that, look, India was here to liberate you from the Japanese. It was not the Chinese troops, it was the Indian troops. So, but I think that we ourselves have abandoned that history. And it's really Prime Minister Modi deserves credit for reclaiming the role India played in the two world wars. And that we're not a new Johnny-come-lately to become a major power. That we've always contributed to the maintenance of the international system, and that is India's return of India to a major power status.
That's why I have that poster, Raja, behind you. That's a World War I recruitment poster. The Indian soldier out there. Many people think it's an Akhand Bharat thing. It's not. It's the World War I poster.